So one very prominent way that God expresses love is through his everyday blessings. God expresses his love through everyday blessings. So Van, please read Matthew chapter 5, verses 44 through 45.
But I tell you, love your enemies and pray for those who persecute you, so that you may be children of your Father in heaven. For he causes his sun to rise on the evil and the good, and sends rain on the righteous and the unrighteous.
So this manifestation or expression of God's love is unconditional. It's often referred to as common grace because it's given commonly to all people. He doesn't make a determination that only the righteous people, thank God, only the righteous people in this world get food and water, as an example. But whether it's food and water, or it's clothing or shelter or family and friends, God gives common grace that all people can experience precisely because he's a good Father. So Van, in your life, when you think about how God expresses his love to you through everyday blessings, regardless of your righteousness, regardless of your faith, what would you cite as an example?
Well, there are obvious examples like my wife and my daughter and all the things that God has provided for me in my life thus far. But then I think of a huge one that most of us take for granted until we need it, and it's the blessing of medical technology, and how many of us and people we know may be dead today if it wasn't for the blessing of medical technology. I actually have to remind people sometimes that I had cancer at one point in my life. But today I'm cancer free and I'm healthy. But if it wasn't for the blessing of medical technology, I would be dead today, for sure. So,
well, I for one am glad you're not dead. Right? I mean, praise God.
Praise God.
Praise God for the technology. And the point is here that grace in your life, whether it's your wife or your daughter, or medical technology, or your access to that medical technology, which is a related issue, though separate. God is kind, and he does so apart from our faith, just because he's good. In my life, I too have experienced an incredible amount of common grace. I think of my wife, I think of my children, I think of clean water. Those are all examples of common grace. And I think the most appropriate response is gratitude and joy.
Yeah.
And accessing that common grace, enjoying that common grace to the glory of God, eating and drinking and living in celebration of a very good giver. But what we're going to do now is make the point, it can't stop there. We have to go beyond and see deeper, more profound expressions of God's love for humanity.